Hello everybody. So today I thought we would do something a little bit different. When I started the podcast, I was a very beginner knitter, and over the course of the past year and a half I've tried a lot of patterns and I've tried a lot of things. So I thought we'd have a sit down today and take a look at some of the favourite patterns that I've knit. Hopefully you'll get some inspiration from it, or sorry, that's Stuart coughing, or you will give me some more inspiration for other things to try that I haven't tried yet. So this folder is where I keep all my patterns. Now I'm not going to go through all of these here today because some of them I haven't tried, some of them are gifts, and it would take us forever. So I'm just going to pick a few out and I'm going to talk about some of my favourites that I've done so far. So grab yourself a coffee, prepare to be inspired, hopefully, and let's have a chat about some patterns. So I have got no plans for how this is going to work. I'm literally just going to dive in and talk about what I come across. So when I started the podcast, I was very much a crocheter, and for those of you that have been following along for a while, you'll see that now is starting to creep back. The goal at the start was to learn how to become a better knitter. It wasn't even a better knitter, it was I could knit a scarf. That's all I could probably do easily. So it was to learn all the techniques that I wanted to learn. I remember at the start garments being like a whole other level of something I would never ever get to the point of being comfortable with. But it's been a really interesting year and a half, and I've tried a lot of things, and by absolute far, my favourite is socks. I think that was more this year that I really got into just enjoying socks. So you will see a lot of sock patterns, but let's just dive in. So let's open the folder, and the first pattern we will be adding things to make next, because there's some of these patterns in here that I haven't made yet. So some of these are going to be made next. The first one is the striped sporty shorties by Forest City Knit Girls. Now this is it. I won't be linking all of these patterns below because there's going to be too many. It'll take me forever, so you will have to just look at the what the pattern's called and who it's by. All of these are off Ravelry. There might be one or two that I come across that are not on Ravelry, but I'll say that, but the rest of them all be on Ravelry. So these socks were a gift. These are from my lovely friend Sue, and I plan on making these soon. So I can't actually say how easy they are, how difficult they are. They do look really fab. I don't have the yarn for these yet. Maybe I'll get that at Yarndale. But that is one to make, so that's going into my make pile. Let's see if we can start with ones that I've actually made. These ones I made, and these were amazing. These are off Ravelry. These are the library socks, and they are by the Kitchen Sink Shop. This was an amazing pattern. I've made one pair of these, and this certainly won't be my last. It's a really easy pattern, and she says, I love having socks on the needles that are easy to pick up whenever I have time to knit just a few rows, which is exactly the reason I like knitting socks. They are a super easy to remember pattern and will show off any type of yarn, and they're just as easy to knit as vanilla socks. They really are. That was one of my favourites. That's going into the favourites pile, the library socks. It's a brilliant pattern. So we have those. The next one is the Odyssey by Hokey Lokitelli. This is a free pattern on Ravelry. This was given to all of us from Hokey Lokitelli to say thank you for the support that she's received. And it's a brilliant pattern. It's a DK weight shawl. This is on my Instagram if you want to have a hop on over there and have a look. It's a lovely, lovely shawl. If you go into my inspiration make along right at the very start, there's one in there as well. Would highly recommend this pattern. This stitch here is, I believe, something that Hoki has designed herself. There is a YouTube tutorial for that. It's really easy, it's really mindless, it's DK weight, so it works up super fast. That's a fantastic pattern. Right. The next one is another favourite. This I will put up there with the library socks, and it is the Whitmore cardigan. It is fantastic. It's by Taylor S Studio, Amy Loudon, and the first cardigan I've ever knit, and it was just brilliant. The good thing about this that I preferred more than anything is the button band is knit at the same time as the rest of the cardigan, which makes it really easy. I'll talk about the Whitmore sweater in a minute because I will come to that. But yeah, it's a brilliant cardigan. I made mine in blue and it looks beautiful. I want a red one as well. So I'll be making another one of those. But yeah, that is up there with the library socks. That is one of my favourites, and there will be more of those to come. That's that one. The rock cap. I'm going to have to carefully show you this because there was no front cover on it. It was a really good pattern. It's this one here, and it's called the rock cap. It was a brilliant, brilliant pattern, really easy. I'm not sure I'd make another one, although I love the one that I have. It wasn't, nothing really stuck out on me, not like the Whitmore and the library socks. They become a favourite, ones that you're going to make over and over again. This was brilliant. Nothing negative whatsoever to say about the pattern, but I'd probably not make it again. It was just a nice pattern to do. So that is that one. The next one is crochet. Oh, this one. I was lucky enough to test this and it's amazing. So this is the Belong Wrap by Hannah Siegmund of the Cozy Cottage Crochet. And she designed this for Pride, and it was about everybody being all-inclusive. It is huge, ginormous, and I absolutely love it. I love all the colours. It looked lovely. I think there were 6 colours in this. It would look lovely just in 2 or 3 that you could alternate. It's a gorgeous pattern. It didn't take me long. I did a test knit for this, and I think I'd started it and finished it in a week. I couldn't actually put it down. It was really, really good. So that will be one I make again. It's got this gorgeous detail. Can you see it? The colour changes. Really, really pretty. And it's all DK weight as well. So it worked up really fast. That is another good one. The next one is socks. Now, I actually nearly cast on a second pair of these the other day. These are a free Ravelry download, I believe, or they were when I downloaded it. And this is the old sweatshirt socks. These are a favourite. I had mine on the other night. They are absolutely gorgeous. They're designed just to sling on in the house after a bath to keep your feet cosy during the winter, and they really do. They're a gorgeous pattern, so I will be making more of these. These are an absolute favourite. And I think everybody should have a pair of old sweatshirt socks. They're gorgeous. I wear mine often. So yeah, another favourite. I've got 3 in the favourites pile so far. Try not to just do shawls. Now we have one by Stephen West. I'm going to show it first because I haven't made it, but I have started it and frogged it, and it's nothing to do with the pattern. This is the Starflake by Stephen West. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous pattern. I initially saw this at Yarn Day last year, and I saw a sample of this knit up, and it was done in black and gold, and I absolutely fell in love with it. And I've said it often enough on the podcast, if I could have bought that sample, I would have done. I got the pattern, I went to make it myself, I picked completely the wrong yarn. I had blue and white, and I thought, well, I've got plenty of that, I'm just going to make it in that. And I started making it, and it wasn't what I wanted. I wanted it in the black and gold that I'd seen. So this one will be cast on again in the correct colours that I have seen. So it's not on the favourites pile because I've not made it yet. Now, this next pattern is totally, utterly one that I think everybody should have as a staple. I think I've made this 4 or 5 times. And this is the Show Us Your Scraps Mitts by Laura Bales, who is the Lonely Knitter. It is my favourite knit pattern. And I've tried a few different knit patterns, mitt patterns. This is my favourite. I love the fact that you can use scraps of yarn with this. I've made the scrappy version, I've made plain versions, I've just made stripy versions, and every time I'm happy with it. My friend asked me to make her some last year, which I did, and she loves hers. It's a brilliant pattern, really beginner friendly. I had no problems with it whatsoever, and I absolutely love it. So that will definitely be getting made again. It's a fabulous, fabulous pattern. So that is the Show Us Your Scraps Mitts by the sorry, it's not Laura Bales, it's the Lonely Knitter Designs. Her name is Laura Bales, but that's what she must be down for on Ravelry. Lonely Knitter Designs. Brilliant. I haven't started that one yet. Or that, or that. Now we have another Stephen West. I absolutely love Stephen West, and I am beyond pleased that he's started to design socks. I like shawls, but what I've discovered over the past, probably only the past 3 or 4 months, is although I love shawls, they're not something I gravitate to. So I enjoy wearing them, but I don't enjoy knitting them. And I've had to learn that. And I think there's a huge difference when you're a knitter to something that you enjoy knitting and something that you just enjoy wearing. So if I make a shawl, it is a product knit only, because I just don't enjoy knitting them. They're very big, and I know you can get smaller shawls, but if I have a shawl, I want it to be huge. So they're not my favourite thing, so I'm beyond pleased that he's branching out into socks, which, as we all know, is my favourite thing. But I did make this shawl, and it was my first Stephen West, and it's the Winterlight shawl. It's on my Ravelry, and I absolutely love it. Would I make it again? Probably not, because I have one. I don't need a second, but nevertheless, I do love it. I would recommend it, definitely. It looks a lot more complicated than what it is. He has tutorials. If you've never made a Stephen West, I would urge you to try it. He has a tutorial for everything. Nothing is complicated. And although these designs look so intricate, it holds your hand all the way through. So yes, I would definitely recommend it. This, I believe, is a free pattern. This is the Close to You shawl. I have made this one, and I think I've made this one twice, actually. It's a lovely pattern, definitely a favourite. This is the kind of shawl that's not too big. You can keep going with it. When the pattern would end, you can just carry on and make it as big as you like. But it's not a mindless knit, because you've got the eyelets that you need to concentrate on a little bit, but they're only on half of the shawl, so it's almost like a mindless knit. It's super easy. And it's a one skein shawl. You could just keep going if you wanted to make it bigger, but that is one I would recommend, and one I've made more than once. So that will have to go into my favourites pile. It's by Justina Lorkowska. If I can bring that up a bit closer. I hope that's showing. And it is a very nice shawl pattern. The next one is one that should be in every new knitter's staple. It's the Flax by Tin Can Knits. I have made this, and I think every knitter knows the Flax. It's a free pattern on Ravelry by Tin Can Knits, and it's just brilliant. It sort of It's one of those patterns where if you've never made a garment before, you would start with this one. I didn't start with this one. I started with The Weekender by Andrea Mowry, which is just as brilliant. It's not actually in my book, that one, but I would also recommend The Weekender for a first garment. But this is a fantastic, fantastic pattern. It has these garter ridges down the sleeve. I didn't do them on mine, but it looks good either way. So yeah, definitely one to recommend, and it's a fantastic staple. And then we have, I haven't done that one. I haven't done that one. Now this pattern, this is by my friend Megan. So Megan is Pearl Passion on Instagram. And this is the simplistic 2 at a time socks. And if any of you are a sock knitter and you want to give 2 at a time socks a go, that's where you've got both socks on the needles at the same time. This pattern's brilliant. Now it's worked toe up. I've made it a few times. She talks you through the cast on and managing yarn, because obviously you've got 2 skeins of yarn to manage. It's a really good pattern. It's not a free pattern, but it's absolutely worth it. It's not an expensive one, but totally worth it if you want to try 2 at a time socks. I would highly recommend it. I'm not really a fan of toe up. I much prefer cuff down, and that's the only reason being. For no other reason, is I don't like the way the rib looks on toe up. And it doesn't make any difference to the socks whatsoever. Because once you've got the sock on, it doesn't look any different to a pair of socks that you haven't knit toe up. It's just when your socks are not on your feet or on blockers, the rib looks a little bit baggy, and it just one of them bugbears that I have, which is silly because it makes absolutely no difference. But yeah, that is a gorgeous pattern. Also by my friend Megan at Pearl Passion is the Sugarcane Farm hat. This is a hat that's inspired by Minecraft. She designed this for a little boy who was Minecraft crazy, and they are designed to look like sugar canes. And this is a gorgeous hat pattern. I believe it's worsted weight. Again, you can find Megan on Ravelry. If you just type in Sugarcane Farm Hat Ravelry, this will come up. I actually gifted a copy of this for a giveaway to somebody. It's a lovely hat, totally recommend. I made it for myself, and I just did it in pink. Again, it's on my Instagram, so you wouldn't be able to tell looking at it. It's a Minecraft hat, but I quite like the fact that I'm wearing this bright pink hat that's a Minecraft hat that nobody knows it is. It's just brilliant. If you've got it in green, I think it's a bit more obvious what it is. But yeah, that is a fantastic pattern. Now, I'm going to talk about these, but I've not cast them on yet, just because I was thinking about these this morning, actually. I was gifted this pattern from Get Your Yarn Wishes Granted was it October last year, and I haven't made them yet, but because I've bought myself some new boots, I really want these to go with my new boots. So these are a new cast on. Once I've got the socks off the needles that I need to get off, I will start on these. And these are the camp socks. They are by darlingsjador.com. And I think they are just fabulous. They are on Ravelry, and I think they look gorgeous. I have this yellow yarn. I've mentioned it on the podcast or vlogs, which I really want into a pair of socks. Now, I've got the August honey socks that I also want to use that yellow yarn for, but I may have to buy another skein because I want some long socks so you can just see them poking out of the top of my new boots. Oh, we talk about this one. Yeah, let's talk about this one. This is a crochet pattern. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. I've made it many times because if you look in my tutorials, you'll find a tutorial for this along with the free pattern on Ravelry. And this is my pattern. This is the Lady Violet Bear. and she's literally about that big. That's probably quite true to size for how big she is. So any of you wanting to give amigurumi a go, head on over to Ravelry, download the pattern, and then if you go to my tutorials, I do it with you as well. She's beautiful. I like little tiny bears, and I've made many of these, but yeah, it's a little selfish plug there. So that's that one. Oh, that's another one of mine. Have I made 2? I think I've done 4 patterns now, you know. There's Bentley the Giraffe, which is on Etsy, Oscar Owl on Etsy, Lady Violet is on Ravelry, and the Autumn Wing Shawl is also mine. I'll just shamelessly show this one as well. That's on Ravelry, that's a paid for pattern. That was my first shawl pattern I designed. If you want to have a look. Oh, another favourite. So this is another Stephen West. So you can imagine that I am just the biggest Stephen West fan. This is the honey striped hat. This pattern actually came free with the Winter Light shawl. Was it that one? It came free with one of his patterns, and it's gorgeous. He has another version of this, which is very similar. I don't know what it's called, but this one, I think it's on his Ravelry, this one anyway. It's a gorgeous pattern. I made this last year. I think I made it in like an evening. It was really super quick. DK weight yarn. And I put a little pom-pom on the top, and it's lovely. I really like it. I wore it quite a lot last winter. So that's a favourite. More socks. Now, you all know that this is a favourite because I've made 2 pairs so far in the past couple of months. These are the Rose City Rollers. You have to be quick if you want this pattern. They only come onto Ravelry every so often. I don't know why. So I'd initially seen this pattern on another podcast and tried to get it and couldn't get the pattern. It just kept saying, well, you go onto Ravelry and there wouldn't be a download option for it. But I kept checking because I heard that it comes back every so often. So I kept checking and eventually managed to grab myself a copy. It's a free pattern. So if you would like this pattern, I suggest you do the same thing. Just keep checking. It's a fabulous pattern. I think each sock used just over 20 grams of yarn. So it's really good. Brilliant. That's definitely a favourite. I'm going to make some of these for Ruby, maybe for Christmas. But yeah, very good pattern. I really like that. That's one that I haven't started. Oh, these are the August honey socks that I was just talking about. Now, I don't think these are a free pattern on Ravelry. Even if you're a very beginner sock knitter, I think you can do this pattern. These are by... doesn't tell you who it's by on the pattern. Oh, Olivia Villarreal. But if you just type in again into Google August honey socks Ravelry, they'll pop up. I'll just pop that in there. I must say, out of all the socks that I've made, these socks fit me the best. The absolute best. They fit perfectly. So I'll be making plenty more of these. And these are the ones that I was just mentioning a minute ago that I've got the yellow yarn for, that I would like in the yellow yarn. There is a chart for the pattern, but don't be put off if you're not a chart knitter. It's super easy. I'm not a chart knitter at all. I can follow a very basic chart, but the complicated ones, it all kind of dances around and I lose my way with it. But this is really easy because even in the chart, there's just literally 2 rows or maybe 3 that you need to pay attention to. The rest of it's just knit. So it's really easy to follow. It's a really good pattern. Honestly, I can't recommend it enough. If you do get this pattern, the good thing about it is, and I didn't realise at first, it's got instructions for cuff down and toe up. So I got the pattern, and obviously I love cables. They're my favourite thing to do with knitting. Always have been. So I saw these and I thought, I'm just having them. They're one of those patterns that I'm like, no, I'm just having it. So I got the pattern, I got the yarn out, I wound it up while my pattern was printing and just straight into the pattern. Didn't flick through it like you're supposed to do. I just got straight into the pattern, and it started off toe up, and I thought, oh, I can do toe up, but it's just not my favourite. Just like cuff down isn't everybody's favourite. And I thought, well, I really want the socks, so I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to knit them toe up. So I'd started them, I'd got past the toe and everything, and then realised if I'd have turned the page, the instructions were there for cuff down. So I pulled it back and went cuff down instead. But yeah, I did modify mine slightly on these because I was using the shadow wrap heel. This is a different heel, and I put the shadow wrap in as I always do with all of my socks. So my modifications are on my project pages on Ravelry if you'd like to see them. Yeah. Total favourite pile. I'm going to show this one because I was talking about it yesterday and I had a couple of comments about it. So, I haven't made it. This is an advent project. It's by Curious Handmade and it's the Habitation throw. I got this last year. So my advent calendar last year was an amazing advent calendar. I absolutely loved it. And I'd chosen 10 gram minis. And I started this. I could have had 20 gram mini advent calendar, but I chose 10. So when I started this last year, because I was using 10 gram minis, it came out much smaller. So I ended up pulling it back and doing something different with my advent. I very well may do this year because it is a gorgeous pattern. And it would be more suited. Maybe not everybody would agree, but I think it's certainly more suited to 20 gram minis, just so you've got a bit more. It's a blanket at the end of the day. You want it as big as you can get it. The pattern is amazing. It's just, you've got checkpoints through it. So if you're 25% there, 50% there, it's brilliant. And the best thing I like about this pattern is you don't see it very often in patterns. Each row has a checkbox, so if you've not got a spare row counter, you can just check off each row. Sometimes what I find really frustrating in a pattern is, you know, some patterns look really, really lovely and they're all aesthetically pleasing, but I write on my pattern. I like to keep track of my rows if I've not got a spare row counter, so I need somewhere to write, and some patterns you can't, but this one, it's a big pattern and it's got each row written down so you can check each row off, which I always appreciate with a pattern. I cannot recommend that enough. It's perfect. So that's the Habitation throw by Helen Stewart. Oh, this one was, I think it might have been my second garment that I made. And I believe this could be a free pattern on Ravelry. This is the Mysterium tee. This one has a story to it. So it's a fingering weight t-shirt. And I'm not an experienced garment knitter now by any means. I'm still very much a beginner. But this for me was a little bit of my nemesis because it was fingering weight. It had this little bit of lace detail and it didn't have any ribbing. So I wasn't sure how this was going to work. So it really was such a huge feat to finish this. It's on my Instagram. Now, also on my Instagram is when Tilly destroyed it. So I'd finished this and I was over the moon to finish it. And it was a lovely day outside. And I thought, I'm going to pin it all out on the blocking mats and pop it outside in the sun to dry. And Tilly got onto it and she, like cats do this, she did this to it and she shredded it. I managed to fix it. I had to sort of put it away for a couple of weeks and get myself over the trauma. But I'd managed to use duplicate stitch and I fixed it and you can barely tell now. And you know what? I never wear it because I always think if them duplicate stitches come out, it's going to be unwearable. So I don't actually wear it because of the fact it's had so many mends on it. But if you go over to my Instagram and have a look at how it looked after Tilly had played with it, oh my word, it was the most traumatic thing ever. But it's a fantastic pattern. I followed it easier with my very limited knowledge of garment knitting, and I thought it was brilliant. If I did it again, I would put an I-cord bind off on here. It's designed to roll. It's just not finished at all, so it's designed to roll. I would put an I-cord bind off on it, but it's lovely. And I think, oh, one more. We've got to have this one because I'm making the Rocket DK at the moment. This is the Rocket T. So this is by Tanis Fibre Arts. It's a brilliant pattern. Now, I'm not sure that I would recommend it to a beginner, to be honest with you. There was a couple of issues I had with nothing to do with the pattern. The pattern's fantastic. Part of it is my knitting. I don't know if it's because I'm a tight knitter. It has this amazing, you can't really see it, the photograph's quite dark. Here, you can see it on that side. Can you see the shoulder? Take it out of the sleeve, see if that helps. It hasn't really done anything. Can you see the shoulder detail here? It's got this gorgeous eyelet shoulder detail. I think it might be my style of knitting. I kept that, it's done with yarn overs, and the yarn overs kept hopping over a stitch marker. So once I'd got myself through that bit, it has it all the way down the side. I just didn't put it on the side. So I had that issue with it. And I think my first attempt at this, I got the sizing completely wrong. Now, again, that's my inexperience. It did state how much positive ease you needed in the pattern, and it did state in the pattern that you need to add that on yourself because it gave finished garment measurements. So I needed to take my measurements and then add the positive ease that I wanted, and I didn't do that. Again, that's my inexperience. So I kind of think another beginner knitter would probably do the same thing. And I mean a very beginner knitter. You can totally do this if you've done another garment. So as it turned out, I'd made a size that was much too small. And it was when I was diagnosed with diabetes and I had to completely overhaul my diet. So as I made this, weirdly, I lost the weight and it ended up fitting. So it was a little bit strange, a little bit serendipity really, if you will, because there was no way this would have fit if I hadn't have been diagnosed with diabetes, because I had to lose weight. So I lost 2 stone. So by the time I finished it, it fit like a glove and it fit perfectly. It's a gorgeous pattern. I used 2 skeins of yarn, and that was, I literally had a nugget of each colour left. It was just enough, and yeah, brilliant, absolutely brilliant pattern. I will recommend it. I will make it again. I went out and bought the Rocket DK, which I'd show you the pattern, but it's in my project bag. I'm making the Rocket DK now, and I love it just as much. If you hop on over to Mandy at the Mouses Makes podcast, she's made a ton of these. And also Dear Designs has made more than one of these. It's a lovely pattern. It really is. So I would totally recommend that. And I will make that again. So that is it for all of the things that I've made. Would you like just to have a quick flick through? Oh no, before we do that, these are the ones that stay on favourites. So these are the ones that I will make again. So the ones that I recommend more than anything are the August Honey Socks, the Rose City Rollers, the Close to You Shawl, Show Us Your Scraps Mitts. So there's only 3 more. Oops. Yeah, that's fine. The Old Sweatshirt Socks. The Whitmore cardigan. I'm so making that in red. In fact, that wasn't even my idea. It was a comment somebody left, and they'd said in the comment, have I gone a bit dark here? Is that better? They'd said in the comment, it looked really nice in red. And library socks. So there are my top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, top 7 patterns over the past year and a half of my journey into knitting. So very quickly, because obviously 35 minutes talking about patterns is not enough time, I'm just going to quickly touch on the ones that I would like to cast on in the near future. And there isn't too many, I don't think. Let me just go through here. I've got quite the pile here. The V-Back Tee by Jamie Hoffman. Desperate to cast this on since I saw Chevy Rell do her advent version of it. I think it was a Halloween advent she had, and oh my god, it was amazing. So I would love to do a scrappy version of that. So that's the V-Back Tee. I would like to cast that on. We also have the mint tea socks. You've seen these on the podcast. They are by Debbie Ford, and I just love them. I love them. Absolutely everything about them. They are beautiful. They're a near future cast on, as is this I came across, it wasn't too long ago, maybe only a couple of months ago, and it's called the Scrappy Yo Shawl, and it's this one. It's on Ravelry. I believe it's a free pattern, and the introduction says, I wanted a simple shawl to use up an unknown quantity of rainbow yarn. Any scrap yarn or transitioning colourway would work equally as well in this, a basic semi-boomerang triangle shawl. So I'd really like to make that. That's the Scrappy Yo Shawl. These socks, which I would like to cast on as soon as possible because it's in keeping with the season that we're in, and these are called A Little Bit of Hocus Pocus. Oh no, A Little Hocus Pocus. These are by, these ones I believe are a free pattern on Ravelry. I've shown them on the podcast as well. Doesn't say who they're by anywhere in the pattern. But again, a really good tip for any pattern that you're wanting to find on Ravelry is just, if you just type in A Little Hocus Pocus socks and then Ravelry, it brings them up, and you can then just click it and it'll take you straight to Ravelry. So those ones are a definite cast on. You should see the mess I've made, it's ridiculous. And these ones I showed you right at the start. These are the striped sporty shorties, which is a real mouthful to say, but yeah. And that is everything. Absolutely everything. That I've not shown you all of the patterns because they would just take forever, but I've just shown you the ones that stand out. So maybe if you're hunting around for a pattern at the moment and you don't know what you want to make, or you just needed a little bit of inspiration, or you just wanted to look at mine and think, Alex, get a grip, you've got too many patterns, finish the stuff that you're already doing, then yeah. So thank you for joining me for that little super, I'm saying super quick, that was supposed to be 10 minutes. It's 38, that's ridiculous, but never mind. So I'll see you on the next one, guys. Bye-bye.